Hey Five! I hope you've had a really good day and been able to do some of the work that we set you today. I'm here at 3 o'clock to read the next chapter of There's a Boy in the Girls' Bathroom, and we have got up to chapter 28. So I'm going to pick up from where we left off and carry on. Bradley lay on his bed, on his stomach. He chewed the end of his pencil as he looked hopelessly at the arithmetic book opened in front of him. Next to the book was a piece of paper. In the upper right-hand corner he had written, Bradley Chalkers, Homework, Arithmetic, page 43, Red Hill School, room 12, Mrs. Ebble's class, last seat, last row, black eye. His handwriting, which was messy anyhow, was made worse by the fact that he wrote with a dull pencil on top of a soft bed. He had stayed in Mrs. Ebble's class as long as he could after the bell rang. Bradley, it's time to go home, Mrs. Ebble finally said to him. He looked outside, unsure if Jeff and his gang of bullies were waiting for him. I have a question, he said. Mrs. Ebble eyed him suspiciously. What kind of question? He tried to figure out what kind of question he had. An asking question? I see, said Mrs. Ebble. May I ask it? He asked. Okay, she said reluctantly. He asked his question. What page is the homework on? The homework? Page 43. He wrote 43 on the top of his sneaker so he wouldn't forget, then took his arithmetic book and stepped outside. Jeff and his friends were playing basketball. He ran home. Now he looked hopelessly at page 43, shook his head and sighed. Question 1. What is 3/4 of 2/3? It was the most impossible question he'd ever seen. His mind wandered. Hey, Bradley, what are you doing? Asked Ronnie. Homework. What's homework? She asked. It's work you do at home. Is that supposed to be funny? She asked. No, really, that's what they do at school. They give you work to do at home and they call it homework. You've never done it before, said Ronnie. I'm doing it for Carla. Now leave me alone so I can concentrate. Question 1. What is 3/4 of 2/3? Why are you doing it for Carla? Ronnie asked. He sighed. Okay, I'll tell you, but you can't tell anyone. Ronnie promised not to tell. We're in love. Really? Exclaimed Ronnie. How do you know? She kissed me. Ooh, that means she loves you, said Ronnie. Are you going to marry her? Maybe when I'm older. First, I have to do my homework. I'm going to marry Bartholomew, said Ronnie. I know, said Bradley. Now let me do my homework. Question 1. What is 3/4 of 2/3? Hey, Bradley, what's going on? Asked Bartholomew. Leave him alone, said Ronnie. He's trying to do his homework. He can't concentrate when you're talking to him. Maybe I can help, said Bartholomew. What's the problem? What is 3/4 of 2/3? Bradley asked. 3/4 of 2/3, Bartholomew repeated. That's a tough problem, all right. 3/4 of 2/3. Let's see. You divide 4 into... No. You multiply 2 times... No. Of means divide, said the donkey. Like if you take half of something, it means you divide by 2. You divide 3 by 2 and 4 by 3. Bradley started to write that down. No, of means times, said the lion. You have to multiply everything. First you have to reverse the nominators, said the fox. You don't reverse, you inverse, corrected the mother cocker spaniel. I thought you have to find a common denominator, said the elephant. Not for multiplication, said the hippopotamus. That's only for addition. Multiplication is the same as addition, said the fox, only faster. You cancel out the 3s, said the kangaroo. You always cancel out 3s. You multiply the 3s, said the lion. Bradley kept erasing and rewriting and erasing and rewriting until there was nothing but a big black smudge covering his paper. On the top of the smudge he tried to write 3 times 3 = 9, but as he did so his pencil tore a hole through the paper. The answer can't be 9, said Ronnie. If you start out with fractions, you have to end up with fractions. Bradley slammed the book shut. None of you know what you're talking about, he cried out in disgust. He took the book, paper and pencil and walked down the hall to the dining room. His mother was sitting at the table working a crossword puzzle from the newspaper. He plopped down next to her and sighed. She looked at him inquisitively. I can't figure out how to do my homework, he complained. Will you help me? His mother smiled. I'd be delighted. Let me see. He pushed his arithmetic book in front of her. Page 43. She opened the book to that page and looked at Bradley's torn, smudged paper. Okay, first, let me clear away this newspaper so we can have a nice, neat place to work. While I do that, I want you to get a clean sheet of paper. I don't have any more paper. This is all I brought home. There's some paper in your father's desk. Get a sharp pencil too. He looked at her in disbelief. He wasn't allowed to touch anything on his father's desk. She nodded. Bradley felt a little scared as he walked into the extra bedroom, which his father used as an office. He opened the top drawer of the old oak desk and carefully took out a pencil and a piece of paper. He shut the drawer, looked around, and then hurried back to his mother. She smiled at him. He sat down and wrote, much neater this time. Bradley Chalkers, homework, arithmetic, page 43, Red Hill School, room 12, Mrs. Ebble's class, last seat, last row, black eye. You have to put all that, he explained, in case it gets lost. She read the first question aloud. What is 3/4 of 2/3? He shrugged. Okay, she said. The first thing you want to do is write the equation down. He still didn't know what to do, so she wrote it down for him. 3/4 times 2/3. Whenever you see the word of, it means you multiply, she explained. Of means times, he said. Right, said his mother. That was what the lion had said. Now you can count like the threes, said his mother. That was what the kangaroo had said. You always count like threes. Neither of them noticed that Claudia was standing behind them, watching. That's not how you're supposed to learn it, she said abruptly. Bradley turned around and glared at her. You have to explain why you cancel them, said Claudia, and they don't call it cancelling, it's called dividing by 1. I just know the way I learned it, said Mrs. Chalkers. If you want, I can show you, Bradley, said Claudia. He looked at his mother, then back at Claudia, then at his mother. She knows the way they're teaching it now, said his mother. You'll help me? Bradley asked his sister. Sure, why not? I've got nothing better to do. Mrs. Chalkers stood up and Claudia took her place. Don't do it for him, said Bradley's mother. Make sure he knows how to do it himself. Claudia worked patiently with Bradley for the rest of the afternoon. When he said he understood something, she made him explain it to her. That was harder. He understood it when she did it, but then he had trouble when he tried to do it himself. By dinner time, there was only a little more than halfway through. Bradley wanted Claudia to help him after dinner too, but she had her own homework to do. You know how to do it, she told him. You can do it yourself. I need help, he complained. I'll help you, said his father. You will? Let's go to my office. We can work at my desk. Bradley couldn't believe it. They worked together. Bradley was surprised by how much his father knew. He made all the hard parts seem easy. Bradley was a little disappointed by how quickly they finished. He had liked working with his father. He brought his finished homework back to his room. Oh, I get it, Bradley, said Bartholomew. You multiply the numerators and denominators separately, but I still don't understand reducing. It's easy, said Bradley. Here, let me show you again. Chapter 29. Bradley was too excited to sleep. Mrs. Ebble will be so surprised, he thought. She'll tell the whole class only one person got 100%. Bradley! But there were so many things that could still go wrong. What if I lose it on the way to school? He worried. What if Jeff and his friends steal it? Twice during the night he got out of bed to make sure it was safely folded inside his arithmetic book. What if I did the wrong page? He was no longer sure whether Mrs. Ebble had said page 43 or page 62. He tried to remember exactly what she said to him. He sat up in horror. She never said it was arithmetic homework. Mrs. Ebble had just said a page number. She never said what book. She could have meant his history book or language or any of his other books. He laid back down and trembled. His tears wet his pillow. He got out of bed early in the morning, checked to see if his homework was still there, then quickly got ready and left for school without eating breakfast. On the way, he stopped to make sure he still had his homework. As he opened his book, the paper fell onto the sidewalk right next to a puddle of water. He stared at it, horrified by what he had almost done, then quickly picked it up and placed it back in his book. He held the book tightly shut the rest of the way to school. He was one of the first ones there. He had to wait for the doors to open. He kept on the lookout for Jeff and his gang. He stood with his back to the school wall so they couldn't sneak up on him. He saw Andy. He thought Andy had seen him too, but if he had, he didn't do anything about it. When the doors opened, he was the first one in Mrs. Ebble's class. He sat at his desk, last seat, last row, and waited. As the other kids came in, he saw them put sheets of paper on Mrs. Ebble's desk. He wondered if that was their homework. He now had a new worry. He didn't know how he was supposed to turn in his homework. Jeff entered, placed a piece of paper on the pile on top of Mrs. Ebble's desk, then came towards the back of the room. It must be his homework, thought Bradley. What else could it be? Sean, he said aloud. The girl who sat in front of Jeff turned round. Are you supposed to put your homework on Mrs. Ebble's desk? Don't tell me what to do, Bradley, Sean snapped. You'll worry about your homework and I'll worry about mine, okay? She turned back round. It was almost time for school to start. What if I have to put it on her desk before the bell rings or it doesn't count? He fumbled through his book for his homework, stood up, then headed for Mrs. Ebble's desk. He became more nervous with each step he took. His mouth was dry and he had trouble breathing. He could hardly see where he was going. He felt like he was going to faint. Mrs. Ebble's desk seemed so far away. It was like he was looking at it through the wrong end of a telescope. His heart pounded and his homework rattled in his hand. Somehow he made it to her desk and tried to focus on the sheets of paper the other kids had put there. It looked like arithmetic homework, page 43. But instead of feeling better, he felt worse, like he was going to explode. Do you want something, Bradley? Asked Mrs. Ebble. He looked at his homework, shaking in his hand. Then he tore it in half and dropped it in the waste paper basket next to Mrs. Ebble's desk. He instantly felt better. His head cleared and his breathing returned to normal. His heart stopped pounding. He walked back to his desk, took a deep breath, exhaled, and sat down. He folded his arms on his desktop and lay his head down sideways across them. He felt sad, but relieved, as he gazed at the gold stars. So what do you think about that? He did his homework, he put in lots and lots and lots of effort, his whole family helped him, and he ripped it up and put it in the bin. Wonder why he did that. Okay, we'll find out in the next chapter tomorrow.